Hi, Northview. Welcome to episode 3 of In the Pastor's Study. I just wanted to talk to you today very briefly. We've had our first 2 sermons in our sermon series, Heroes, examining lives of significant women in the Bible. We've looked at the 2 midwives from the book of Exodus, and we've looked at the life of Rahab last week from the book of Joshua. And something that we've noticed is that in both of those stories, there's a lie. We also talked about things like abortion, divorce, abuse, harassment, and last week we talked about prostitution as well as lying. And as I was thinking about that during the weekend and into this week, something that I realized is that sometimes we can get hung up on the whole issue of, is it okay or not? Is this a sin or not? And so I just want to try and help us shift our thinking to just move away from the whole moral angst of, is this right or wrong? Is prostitution right or wrong? Is abortion right or wrong? Is lying right or wrong? I don't think we have to debate that very much. I think what would be more helpful for us is to actually talk about, if we are meant to be an alternative community to the world, then what has to be different about our community? So let's take the example of Rahab from last week. She moved into prostitution because, just like today, so many in prostitution need the money. They're desperate and they have nowhere else to turn. The other options are not really options. And so one of the questions we need to ask is, if that is the kind of the community that the world has and it leads to things like prostitution, then what kind of a community do we need to be as the church in order to facilitate so that women don't have to move into prostitution? How do we care about one another? And we can do that with everything that we named, abuse and harassment. How do we become a community that changes a culture so that women are not perceived as objects for men's desires or men's control? When we talk about lying, what kind of a community do we need to form, or how do we form that community so that it is safe to tell the truth? People will be protected. So think about people who might struggle with pornography or some other type of addiction where there's been deep shame and guilt that's brought around that, and they are afraid what will happen to them if they come forward to try and get help. How can we be a safe community so people can come forward and get the help that they need? So I think that's a much more helpful way to think about and talk about these things. What kind of a community do we want to be here at Northview Community Church so that we don't see these things happening, where people are kept safe and protected and can actually get help for the things that they need to get help for? So that's all I wanted to say this week. I'm appreciating the sermon series. I'm hearing back from some of you that you are too. I really appreciate those words of encouragement. I hope that this is creating some culture change, and so let's keep praying and thinking and acting to be the kind of community that Jesus put together with his original disciples, and he has called us to be a part of in the church. Members of the kingdom. So thanks for participating, thanks for listening, and I hope you have a great rest of your week.